What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where every single week I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network. Today we're talking the second episode in the latest season of WWE Photo Shoot, focusing on Dolph Ziggler. It aired after Raw this past week. Another very entertaining edition of the show. So the first picture we see is of Vickie Guerrero. Of course, Ziggler and Vickie Guerrero have plenty of history on WWE TV. They were paired for a time from almost 2 or 3 years, actually. From 2010 to 2012. They were together for a very long time. And Dolph said working with Vickie was so fun because people hated her so much, but she was such a nice person. And he recalls a specific confrontation that that Dolph and Vickie had with John Cena on an episode of Raw back in, I remember this exactly, December of 2010, that she got out-booed for an entire segment. And it was basically John Cena bullying Vickie, making fun of her weight, which he should not have done. They should not have done that. I thought that was pretty tasteless. But the whole segment was pretty fun overall, with Vickie just getting booed out of the building for fucking 5 to 10 minutes. So much so that they had to cut to commercial because she was still getting booed so loudly that she couldn't speak. And they became great friends, Dolph and Vickie. And he said that it was always great to see her whenever she pops up at WWE. The next picture we see is of Vickie yelling at Zack Ryder. It was probably when Dolph and Zack were feuding back in late 2011. And he said it's always funny to see Vickie yelling at Zack Ryder because he's probably used to getting yelled at by his mom a lot anyway, and he's not talking about back in the day, but rather now. The next picture we see is of Dolph Ziggler as a golf caddy for Chavo Guerrero's Kerwin White character back in late 2005, one of the most racist characters they have ever done. But he said that short hairstyle was the hairstyle that he had for the first 25 years of his life, and it wasn't until after that he started to grow it out, like when he became Dolph Ziggler in 2007, 2008 or so. He said he played every sport there is except being a caddy, so he didn't know what a caddy wears. So he found some polo shirts and some ugly golf shoes, and he was off to the races. The next picture we see is of the Spirit Squad, so they basically, worked out, and their entire gimmick was that they were gymnasts. So they all trained as gymnasts and as cheerleaders. And they were always doing something on the show. The gimmick was terrible, but people remembered the Spirit Squad, and they were always on the fucking show. He even went so far as to say that back when Raw was 2 hours, 40 minutes of the show was dedicated to the Spirit Squad. Not just because of them, but usually it was something they were tied to. Whether it be DX or Roddy Piper or Ric Flair, they were always on Raw. And he said those 12 months that they were together were very fun. The next picture we see is of Dolph Ziggler as Nikki in the Spirit Squad, being in the ring with Shawn Michaels. He said it was so awesome, called Shawn Michaels the greatest of all time. He said he talked to Shawn and Hunter, that being Triple H, every chance that he got to kind of pick their brains and get advice from them. He said he wanted to be the best, and it was a dream come true to share a ring with Shawn Michaels around that period of time. The next picture we see is of him facing Kofi Kingston at some point from 2009 or 2010 or 2011. They faced each other a lot in that 2-year period. He said he loved wrestling Kofi, and their favorite matches against each other, as great as their matches were on Raw and on SmackDown and on pay-per-view and on SummerSlam, their favorite matches together were the ones that happened on live events. They always had good chemistry, they were buddies, they had a lot of fun, and they pretended to have a best of 500 series against each other because they always were facing each other for a 2-year period on whatever brand they were a part of. And they always found a counter for a counter to make their matches that much more exciting whenever they faced off. We see Dolph Ziggler winning Money in the Bank back in July of 2012. He recalled a certain spot from the match where Laura Tensai, now known as Matt Bloom from the PC, threw Ziggler over the commentary table and into a row of chairs, the commentator chairs. It was a ridiculous spot. And then there was a ladder that was positioned on top of one of the tables that led right to the ring. So he crawled, when he got up from this, beat down that he endured at the hands of Tensai, he crawled from the ladder on top of another ladder, pushing Christian off another ladder to win the Money in the Bank briefcase. And he said people get beat up really bad in those matches, but to win it was something special. The next picture we see, I don't even really know why they included this, but it was when he and AJ Lee were in the ring for a New Year's Eve celebration, and John Cena dumped poop on them. So it wasn't actual poop, obviously. They never actually said the word poop. They did when it first happened to Dolph Ziggler. He actually said it here. It was the second time that this had happened to him. It was with the Spirit Squad of the McMahons, and they had poop dumped on them from the top of the stage, which was so stupid. Obviously, it wasn't real shit. But it was such a dumb segment, I don't really know why they showed this, because it was silly. We then see Dolph Ziggler winning the World Heavyweight Championship, becoming the World Heavyweight Champion 1 night removed from WrestleMania 29. So he recalls people chanting for him during the Alberto Del Rio Jack Swagger World Heavyweight Championship match at WrestleMania 29. And people chanted his name the next night too. So when his music hit, the people went nuts. He said it was a reaction that he had never heard anything like it in his entire life. It was a crazy reaction. He'll never forget it. And it really hit him in that moment because it was so special. And he doesn't know how to explain it. He said it just goes to show how the fans can change someone's career. We see a picture of Dolph getting hit by Hugh Jackman, of all people. Yeah, Hugh Jackman hosted Raw not once but twice, back in 2011, then again in 2014. This was back from 2011, leading up to the release of Real Steel, which I went to go see and I thought was a really good movie. He said he told Hugh Jackman to hit him as hard as he possibly could, because if he didn't, the camera angles would pick up on it and it would look stupid and they would both get shit for it. And he thought because Jackman hit him so hard, he thought that he may have fractured his jaw. And he also mentioned working with Snooki, too, back in WrestleMania 27 in that 6-person tag team match. I think it was Ziggler, Michelle McCool, and Layla versus John Morrison, Snooki, and Trish Stratus. Yeah, real fucking mismatch of superstars. But yeah, he recalls working with Snooki and getting slapped by her on that show as well. We see a picture of Ziggler's new look that lasted all of a few weeks in 2011. He said that his long blonde hair stood out. He could, be looked at like a lunatic or a comic book character. And every time he was in the ring, it would like fly all over the place like it does now. But it did before he changed the look too. But WWE told him to cut it short, and make it darker, which I think is his actual hair color, if I'm not mistaken. But then it wasn't working, so he was told to go back to being a blonde like a few weeks later. So it was very short-lived. He got stitches in a match against Sheamus back at Payback 2015 after a headbutt spot. He sent the picture to his mom, who said, cool picture, when did you get highlights? Which is hilarious. I don't know if he's being honest with that, but I thought it was great. He said it was pretty cool to get stitches. It was pretty badass. And the stitches or the bump, the mark was there for like a year and a half. That's how bad it was. We see a picture of Dolph Ziggler backstage with Ric Flair. He said he got really into his work as a kid. He watched a lot of VHS tapes of him, and he always looked and acted the part. He said he loves to hang out with him because it's always a good time with Ric Flair, and he loves being around him. We then see a picture of Dolph Ziggler working with Edge during their 2011 feud, which was great. He called Edge a mentor. He got to travel with him a lot. He got to hang out with him a lot. Got even to challenge for his World Heavyweight Championship back at Royal Rumble 2011, a match I still regard as one of the best world title matches in recent Rumble history. It was a lot of fun. He recalls the crowd reaction, how people were just on the edge of their seats for that match. He said Edge really helped him out a lot during that time period and said it was a really great time for him. He recalls facing The Miz. I think this was from a live event, but they had a lot of matches for like years on end, from like 2012 to like even up until 2016, 2017. Miz and Dolph had a lot of matches against each other. And he said a lot of people looked at Miz as a joke when he first came into the company, but Dolph didn't. He really had to work harder than others to be respected by the locker room, and he said that they have a fun ongoing rivalry with each other. They're friends now, but he still hates them. Obviously, in jest, he said that. And he said they had a lot of fun working and facing each other from, again, like I said, 2012 to like 2016. They had a lot of matches like Dolph and Kofi, but even like 3 times that because they faced each other for years on end, specifically over that Intercontinental Championship. We see a picture of him facing Bobby Roode and Baron Corbin back at Clash of Champions 2017. He said it was a great match. It was for the United States Championship, which he ended up winning that night. But he said he needed to change because he had been the same character for months and years on end. So he cut a promo after the pay-per-view, telling the truth pretty much that, you cheer me now when I win the belt, but you'll go back to not caring about me in a couple months. And, so he told the truth in the promo, and he ended up just leaving the championship there in the ring, and he walked away, and it was the most he'd even talked about in 5 years, he said. But then he ended up, just coming back a month later at the Royal Rumble, and that was about it. Ziggler was back on TV soon after, back to business as usual for Dolph Ziggler, back to nobody giving a shit about him. We see a picture of a Caroline's comedy poster shoot. It was a shoot that they did for a Caroline's comedy event that Dolph had run with Renee Young, Charlie Caruso, Tyler Breeze over SummerSlam weekend in 2018. Zack Ryder was on the poster, but he no-showed it. It was a sold-out event. He no-showed the event at the last minute. So Scott Stanford filled in for him, and he said it was difficult, but it was fun to do the whole comedy thing. He was sweating bullets, but it was a lot of fun that worked out in the end. We see a picture of him with Tremaine, I don't know how you pronounce his name. I forgot how Dolph had pronounced it. But the guy behind Swerved, I think he had also worked on Jackass too. You know that old show on the network from a few years ago called Swerved, where they like pretended it was like this Jackass-like show? They would pull pranks on people. It was funny. It kind of got old after a while, but it was still good. He said that they were, or rather that Dolph lost a lot of friends through that show. I'm sure jokingly he said that, but you know he pranked a lot of people, got a lot of people shocked in the ass. He was the unofficial face of that show because he really worked behind the scenes. And in the end, he ended up getting pranked as well by getting shocked right in the butt. But yeah, him and Tremaine, the guy behind the show, still talk to this day. We see a picture of Dolph with Drew McIntyre from last year. He said, I never knew this. This is pretty funny. He actually asked management about, in April of 2018, he asked management if he can go away for like 6 months to a year to really refresh his character, because the longer he's away, the more it's going to mean when he comes back. So instead, management put him with Drew McIntyre. They said, nah, we're not going to take you off TV. Instead, we're going to put you back on TV and pair you off with Drew McIntyre. So that was not exactly what he was looking for, but he got the match, or he got the tag team with McIntyre anyway. And he said he didn't pitch it, Drew didn't pitch it, but they ended up making the most of it, and they were a great tag team for as long as it lasted in 2018. And Dolph also said, we didn't want a tag team name. We didn't want to dress a luck either. We just wanted to be two guys who had a common goal to rid WWE of the slackers, both in storyline and outside of the ring as well. A lot of people who were just lazy and didn't want to work. We wanted to rid WWE of those slackers. Sounding like, the fucking guy from Back to the Future 2, calling Marty McFly's dad a slacker. And the last picture we see is of Ziggler facing Seth Rollins back at SummerSlam 2018. He said he wanted that IC title to mean the world to the fans as it did to both Seth and Dolph. And he said his tights that night with the IC title, airbrushed on his crotch was an ode to Rick Rude, who did it back in the day. They kicked off SummerSlam 2018, and he said having the best match, it doesn't matter where you are on the show, you are the main event. If you have the best match in the show, you're the main event. And from what I can recall, I think Rollins and Dolph did have the best match on that show. They had a lot of matches last year, but they did have a great match, probably their best match, at SummerSlam 2018. He said the place went nuts for it, and it was pretty cool. And that was it for Photo Shoot featuring Dolph Ziggler, a very enjoyable edition, once again, a lot like the AJ Styles one, so check out both on the WWE Network. Both were a lot of fun. You can relive various photos from throughout Ziggler's career and hear him make snarky and snide comments throughout the way. So again, a very good episode of Photo Shoot. I think it lasts around like 25 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, so check it out on the network at your leisure. And that does it for the latest edition of Network and Chill, guys. Thank you for checking out the show. As always, be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more content. Greatly appreciate the support. I believe today's Sunday as this video goes up, so expect a new Network and Chill in the coming days with my latest review of Total Bellas Season 4, Episode 9. So until then, guys, have a great rest of your weekend. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.